And so let's talk about what the supplier is going to see within the context of a competitive bidding event, because these things are at play in the background. Now, I'm a supplier here and I've been invited to participate within this event. The first thing that Arkestro is doing, and it's really simple, is we want to remove as many barriers to that supplier participating in the event in the first place. And so it's a one-click link within an email to jump into the bid submission. And we certainly have the ability for them to manage their profile in a quasi-supplier portal. But, for all of the fancy bells and whistles in the solutions landscape out there, supplier portals are kind of a hassle for suppliers to manage, with all the details that they have to update and passwords they have to manage. A lot of suppliers are even upset that they have to engage in any other framework outside of Excel. And so certainly this email has an Excel component. If they want to go in and submit their bid through that spreadsheet from the email, they could do it that way through a quote by email process, which is quite simple. But once they click on the link, if they decide to just can log in directly here with no hangups or holdups, and once they're in the event, they're prompted to submit any documents or answer any questions as required. But the first thing that we're doing is we're taking the suggested price per unit that we derived. So 286.63, right, all the way down, those are all provided within the bid sheet. And then we default that value to their bid submission. So this is a behavioral science concept of defaulting, where the default value is more likely to be accepted simply because it's there in the first place. Seemingly simple, but certainly something that carries with it a lot of increase in the likelihood of this price being accepted. And so it's through this default value that the actual bid proposal or suggested offer is populated. And we're saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Supplier, this is the price point that we think we could get for these items. Now you can accept this or modify as needed. And if we want to avoid perhaps a lengthy RFP or a lengthy process altogether, you could just propose this to a single supplier and say, hey, if you accept, we can avoid all that. But if we fast forward to being within, let's say, the competitive bidding event, I'm in the 4th round right now, and I'm seeing, I've got 3rd place here for this line item, and I'm in the top 2 here. This is where we're appealing to that desire to win and the fear of missing out to let the suppliers know what rank they're in. And we're providing them line item feedback about where they would need to be at roughly to be competitive with their bid in the first place. And so they can certainly modify these values, no problem. But once they go ahead and enter that data in and they submit their bid, we're actually telling them where they're likely to be competitive or not in the first place here, and where there's a chance to review that and improve that. And so if we think about the value of this from the supplier's perspective, it certainly lets them know that, hey, they need to be a bit more competitive, and they're likely not going to win if this is their final bid. And so they could bow out at this point, and they could bow out earlier as well and not waste their time and not have your time wasted by just having these details provided to them. And it also makes your process faster because you don't have to go through bids and fix erroneous dollar totals that might have been mistyped. This anomaly detection here is letting us know that this is A, not likely to be accepted, and B, pretty high comparatively. And so by doing this dynamic feedback, we're creating a competitive landscape where first never knows they're in first place, and the rules of engagement are clear for all, that this is a competitive event and they can see their placement within that event. And now as they submit that bid, they're also getting feedback on the quality of their quotes. So how many overpriced line items are there? Do they have any unfavorable answers within their survey rank and score? And then their overall rank. And so this process right here, paired with the concepts that we had talked about earlier of supplier recommendations and suggested pricing, are really moving the needle in a way that no other companies are doing out in the marketplace today. We have